So today's topic, Darren, is what we're calling the appraisal gap. And we've certainly experienced this, but do you want to kind of introduce?
Sure.
All
Um,
right.
One of it's obviously if you're a buyer in this market, it's challenging. If you're a seller, you're kind of in control of the process. There will most likely be multiple offers if your property is appropriately priced, or like many do these days, slightly underpriced. Um, and it's a forward moving market. And when you have a forward moving market, there aren't as many appraisal comparables that have sold recently that are good appraised values. And what's made that even more difficult by today's standards is even the fewer sales that are happening. So it's
Mm,
added even another layer for appraisers to find good comparables and have values come in. So what happens is most buyers want to write their offer, obviously with an appraisal contingency, with meaning that if the property does not appraise for value, that you can negotiate or you can choose to walk away. Um, and in this market, knowing that on the sales side, most listing agents advise that it be removed
mm,
because it's a concern in the value coming in.
right. So, as a context, some of you as buyers might already experience this, but the definition of what an appraiser uses is what basically 1 mile radius and 6 months of comps. But what I'm hearing from you is the market's running too fast, and because of the lower inventory, there's not even enough to comp either way or both.
Right. And I'm not an appraiser and I don't know what boundaries each lender allows them to be flexible in, but you're right on
Mm,
those general guidelines. They want to get them as close as possible and as recent as possible. But I think there are some hard caps, meaning that you really can't go beyond this number. You really can't go that far back.
right.
And they're running into some issues because of that.
And that's the thing, right? They are trained properly to be conservative.
Sure.
So that tempers
Yeah,
them
it's
all.
not a conservative environment by any
Not
means.
at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me do this. Let me go ahead and share uh, an article you found on this. And let's see. So this comes from housingwire.com. And the title is The Appraisal Gap is Complicating Deals Across the Country. Some buyers are borrowing money from relatives and taking loans out against their retirement. And, we've certainly experienced this with some clients lately. And yeah, they do some incredible things to make it happen. So let me go ahead and start. So the home checked off every box on Linda's list. It had a large fenced in yard, modern appliances in an updated kitchen, a man cave for her husband, beamed ceilings, a massive master suite, and was located in a good school district. The house in the Nashville area was listed at 405,000. Linda, who asked that her real name not be used, beat out a dozen other prospective buyers in a bidding war by offering 445,000 and waiving all contingencies. That's common these days. Unfortunately, the appraisal put the house's value roughly 50,000 below than what she paid. With others waiting in line behind her, the seller wouldn't budge on price. Linda had a sizable down payment, but still needed to find a way to close the appraisal gap. She received help from family members and was able to take a loan out against her 401k to make up the difference. Linda plans to move into the new house later this spring. All right, Linda. But
Yes.
not everybody has the ability to tap friends, family, or investments when the appraisal and the final sale price don't match. Many deals have fallen apart as a result. Loan originators and real estate agents said The gap between appraisal and what buyers are willing to pay in one of the wildest real estate markets in modern history has created friction between agents, lenders, and appraisers working under stressful conditions. Anything about that, Darren?
Sure. I think that summarized it really well, which is one of the reasons we pulled this article.
Hmm.
Obviously price of 405 is quite low, but the other than the price, the exact
Same
dynamics
situation.
exist
Yeah.
across the board throughout the country. Um, yeah, and it's a conversation to have before you even go into an offer, to have an off ramp or a way out or a
Yeah.
resource to back up if something like that happens.
Yeah. And as we were talking, every situation is different. How you maneuver in and out of these things really is special to your case. So,
Yeah.
okay. Well, one California based real estate agent who originates her own loans told Housing Wire that she believes appraisers are being far too conservative in this high octane market and are also using bad comps. She recently had a deal fall apart due to appraisal. I disputed the appraisal with three more comps along with receipts of all the upgrades over 25,000 and he still refused to adjust the value. Actually, he was very quick to get out to the house and do the appraisal, so no problem there. It was definitely a rush job. He told me that they have to protect the lender's interest. Wow, since when? He wasted my client's money. So now I'll find another lender and make sure they aren't using that appraisal company. Wow.
I
What's
know.
the truth and fact in that, man?
Well, I don't think appraisers are trying to get the values to come in low. They know it's not going to help
Right?
them. But they are the most pig-headed people I've seen in this industry. They take it personal if you challenge their numbers, and
Mm.
they rarely do not move the dial. I mean, rarely. So
Well, this happened to us. Very similar.
it did.
So
It
we
did.
contested it. We thought we had some decent facts.
Very similar dynamic. Yeah, we had more amenities, views, comps that were slightly beyond the range, but were higher in price. Lots of reasons for it to be adjusted, and it didn't move the needle one one notch.
Ah,
And that
all
is
right.
the option she mentions. We
Mm,
didn't take that route, but I'll tell you that is another option, and that is just cancel with that lender and move on to another lender. I mean, you're rolling the dice. You don't know what's going to come with the next lender.
mhm.
But in her case, in the story they described there, if you've written your offer with no contingencies and you have no way out and you can't make up the difference, that's your only option is to go
Yeah.
to another lender.
A loan officer in Texas told Housing Wire that the competition is intense where he is, and buyers are doing extraordinary things, which has changed deal structures. It's made deals more challenging. For example, one client had a home under contract for 983,000 and the list appraised value was just 900,000, the loan officer said. I've seen a house listed at 1.7 million and sell for 2.03 million, he added. I've also seen homes listed as low as 350,000 sell for 100,000 over ask. My wife and I were thinking about housing up this year and have put that on hold until the market gets some semblance of normalcy. Anything there?
No, you keep flowing
Yeah.
on that one.
I think the point here is at the high end and the low end, we still have this problem. Doesn't matter. The loan officer added that some people get gifts to cover the appraisal gap, while others are borrowing from retirement or brokerage accounts they didn't want to touch because of the tax hit. I've done a few bridge loans by placing a lien on their departing residents, even in other states, he said. But the most important thing is educating clients from day one. Set the expectation that they will need to come out of pocket with a substantial amount because the appraisals are slowly getting better, but they've not caught up yet. For many, this means reducing the price point they're shopping so they can ensure they'll be more competitive and have the funds to close.
Right. So where the price point, adjusting your price point where it can make a difference is that you can alter your loan structure. So if you're capping out on your price, let's say you qualify for a million and write an offer at a million, and the appraisal comes in short, um, you can't increase the loan amount, whatever ratio. Let's say you're putting 20% down. Um, some of the options that people are using, which we've done, is adjusting the loan structure. Okay,
Mhm.
so to cover the appraisal, you do a lower amount down on the loan and use that additional cash that you had to cover the difference. But if you're capping out on the amount on the offer you've written, you won't qualify for a higher loan amount to make that adjustment. And that's where that applies.
Got it. Okay, next. Uh, in an extreme seller's market in which homes are being bought and sold at a rapid pace and market data is being pulled ahead of time, historical data can struggle to catch up and create broad differentials between an agreed upon price and the value, according to Mark Johnson, president of LRES Corporation. When markets accelerate quickly, the credit risk gap widens between the agreed upon purchase price and what the data reflects, and advises loan production teams to explore avenues to understand this delta. Most AMCs offer a process called a reconsideration of value request, or ROV, that when properly presented encourages the appraiser to review the work based on additional appropriate data submitted, Johnson told Housing Wire in August. To consider an ROV, appraisers are most often willing to review and consider comps that are more recent, more proximate, and more similar. A processor from Southern California told Housing Wire that almost all of the appraisals lately for her team's refi and purchase clients have been low by a lot. For purchase, we have one buyer who is struggling to get an offer accepted. He just put his third offer in, list price $399,000. He offered $415,000 non-contingent. The seller decided to counter back multiple people at $445,000 plus no contingencies. He couldn't go that high, especially knowing it likely wouldn't appraise and he wouldn't be able to negotiate after. So he offered $425,000 as his best and final and lost it. Sellers are surely getting greedy.
I disagree with
Anything
that
there?
statement. It's a supply and demand market.
Right.
And, the conversations in these transactions, they get emotional. Early on, they talked about dynamics and friction between agents and buyers and sellers. And that's a little bit of that energy there. If the market will command a higher price, that's the way our system is set up, is to deliver that higher price.
Yeah.
And one thing that becomes clear in these situations, and it's what people are seeking, is it's not fair, straight up.
Yeah.
Real estate
Yeah.
these days is not fair. Don't
Yeah.
seek that balance because it
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
You have to walk into it like that. I think also too, we've said it already about the friction. It is about communicating and anticipating this very likely possibility, depending
Yes.
upon who your client is. You got to let them
Right.
know. All right. Ultimately, a lack of communication is a breaking point for the expectations of what the home is worth in collateral. Joni Pilgrim, CEO of Nationwide Appraisal Network, previously told Housing Wire that 99% of the time there are zero details about the subject property prior to the appraisal, transforming the appraiser into the messenger in those cases and running the risk of an extended appraisal turn time. If you're on top of a mountain and have a 170-degree view of the valley, that's $1 million lot all day long. And the appraiser should be able to pick up on that, usually when they're being asked to do the assignment, said Woody Fincham, founder and president of Acurity Fincham and Associates. However, the lender should know that out of the gate, because once you enter into this property, being a mansion level property or one with a solar powered system, or there's something unique about it, that needs to be communicated to get a proper rating. One appraiser, based in one of the hottest housing markets on planet Earth, the Front Range of Colorado, told Housing Wire that the most recent sales in any appraisal is important, as is documenting the work done. But making me be the only one responsible for the value and the loan makes the appraiser use more caution. If the lenders and agent brokers had to carry those notes and be personally responsible for 5 years also, then the mortgage industry would be more cautious also.
Right. So I think this is a great time to say the thing we say continuously in this business,
Mm,
particularly about appraisals. Appraisals are, they
mm,
try to, there is a science around them, but it is an opinion. And appraisals can vary dramatically. I'm talking 5 to 10% easily, 50 to 150,000, $200,000 from appraiser to appraiser. They try to use the formula. They try to place value on condition and finish. But look, you talk about our market, which is one of the more complicated markets to engage in because of where value is placed. And that is an eclectic, original design, original elements. And the reality is, if you get an appraiser from Arcadia to come to Northeast LA and
right.
appraise an eclectic house, their perception of that house, and all of our perceptions are our reality, is that it's old and tired and it needs to be remodeled. And they're going to appraise it as such. And that's one of the most difficult things about the appraisal market.
So a question then might come up. Okay, so you can go a route of the ROV and request again, bring facts, hopefully, to the appraiser to change his mind. Or could you ask for another appraiser if you're willing to pay? Or it's done with that lender.
The lender won't do another appraiser. This is where we
Okay.
talked early in changing lenders.
Yeah.
And it's not ideal and it
Yeah.
delays the process. I get it. But
I mean, in
I
your
think
career, have you done it like what, two, three times maybe? That's it?
changing lenders,
Yeah.
yeah, I can count on one hand for
Yeah.
sure. And it wasn't as bad as this market. I haven't done it recently because timelines are so tight.
Right.
But
And they'll just move on. Yeah.
they'll just move on. But gosh, these people, we have these are one of the hardest conversations we have consistently these days is writing offers and removing contingency.
Mm.
Um, we as an agent, you gain the trust of the client, and then the first thing you're telling them when they're excited about a property is, okay, get rid of all your protections and safety guide,
Yeah.
and just throw them all away, and let's jump in full bore. So hard.
Well, I was going to say it's a rarity that we get rid of all contingencies. In this
Correct.
article, it sounds like they're taking away everything. Uh, that's
And look how much they're risking. I mean, $50,000 difference in value with with no contingencies on the table.
mm,
I guess that when you're desperate, you find a solution,
yeah,
um, and
yeah,
it seems like they found a solution to get through it. But there are people out there that won't, and then their deposits at risk.
yeah. Okay, so to continue, all right. One Colorado based appraiser told Housing Wire in late March that lowering interest rates to near zero sparked the race to buy and propelled market fear of missing out. He worries about what the future holds. Just hope all the just hope all those who bid 30,000 to 80,000 more, yes, that really happened along the Front Range of Colorado, can survive never being able to refinance to their advantage, as interest rates will likely never enter that range again, he said, remembering that a rise in interest rates from 2.5 to 3.5 is not just 1%, but in reality a 29% increase. 2.5 to 5, 50% would be awful on a $400,000 home. Guess we will have to wait and see if values double again in the next 10 years in the northern Colorado market area. But I can't see a person making $45,000 a year making an $800,000 home payment. Wow.
So the front loaded guidelines on qualifying for the loan are certainly um, more scrutinized, substantially more scrutinized than they were, a decade plus ago when we did have the housing crisis. Or maybe that was 15 years ago when it was really in its heyday.
Yeah.
So more often than not, people have down payments, and this is a great time also to bring up. Um, Recently one of the offers we had accepted that had an appraisal issue, and this was specifically from the lender. Um, they made it clear to us that the lower down payment offers, they are more critical on the appraisals. So,
Yeah.
and specifically, that's the first time I heard it like put that clearly. It makes sense, and it's another disadvantage of having a low down payment. But to put it simply, you're more likely to have an appraisal issue when you have less down than when you have more.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Anything else on this one, Darren?
No, what a great topic.
Yeah.
Seriously, as a buyer, you should be aware of these points going in. As a seller, also understanding, how to counter to do your best to make sure the offer you accept closes us.
I mean, I guess one bit of good news recently that I read, I think today actually, is the interest rates have stabilized, at least for the last, was it 2 months or 2 weeks? I forget.
It's well, they're expecting them to stay in this reasonably tight window for about another 5, 6 months.
Right. So that should help, hopefully.